Good morning everyone, it's Friday 17th of September 2021. No high priority news expected today. That's quite unusual for a Friday. Let me just check the medium priority. We've had Gbp Retail Sales which were worse than expected. Expecting 0.5%, but actually down minus 0.9%. So that's not too good for GBP. Whether that is going to affect the GBP market, we will see. But that was at 7 AM. That was about an hour ago now. We do have some prelim UOM consumer sentiment news 3 PM, but otherwise, pretty quiet day news-wise. Let me just put this back to how it was. Bear with me, guys, because the timer's wrong. There we go. So let's have a quick look at the charts and see what is of interest. Just looking at the dollar index at the moment, I've still got the sentiment that this is likely to see some downside. I've got price within this structure, as you can see. We've got our major support here, we've got our major resistance here, and price is just kind of bouncing along between this major resistance and this support here. And if you've been following my analysis, I've been looking at euro dollar, looking at that as an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So this is basically a head and shoulder pattern forming, as far as I can tell, with a left shoulder head and right shoulder will be somewhere, and then this is our neckline and likely to break down and head towards this major support here. Just looking at the smaller time frame, this is the daily. 4 hour, I can see some 4 hour resistance here. We've come into it yesterday and struggling to break through again. I gotta admit, it does look as though it wants to, but will it actually give up? We've tried once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Are we going to see this drop today? It's a possibility, so we'll keep our eyes on that and some of the dollar pairs. One of which is, I've mentioned earlier, oops, Euro USD alert gone off. Okay, so Euro USD started making some higher highs, higher lows there on the 1 hour time frame. Let's just have a little look at the bigger picture. Excuse me, guys, I've been changing my color scheme today. So this is what I mean about the inverse head and shoulder pattern. If you haven't seen my analysis, left shoulder head, right shoulder neckline. Some people would look to trade the right shoulder if that's what they believe is happening, and the most conservative way is to wait for a break of the neckline and a retest, and then look to go long if we get the setup. So here we have the opposite of the dollar index. We have our major support here, we have our major resistance, and if the dollar index, we were expecting that to drop, we'd expect euro dollar to go up. Okay, so towards this 121 zone up here, but yeah, certainly towards this major resistance of this structure. So are we going to see some dollar weakness today? Are we going to see euro dollar start pushing to the upside? We will have to wait and see. We are seeing some higher highs, higher lows. Very, very early days yet though, guys. Don't start jumping the gun. Make sure you've got a strategy, because you can see here that the momentum is still to the downside. Yeah, we're making lower highs, lower lows officially, and this is the last lower low. This could just be a correction, and we could still make another push down, maybe a double bottom, maybe even break the low. So this was a very impulsive move yesterday. Very, very tough to get into. Don't know whether anybody tried to trade this. Let me just put my hourly averages on, because I'm intraday. I really don't like to go any lower than the hourly, and this just did not produce a correction of any shape or form. It just kind of dropped. If you look at the 15-minute, It just dropped. 5 minute, you could have traded it on that maybe. Well, according to my strategy rules, which is they'll pull back into the 20 moving average, but you can see this was a pretty one-way move. And that was after it broke the 118 barrier. Let me just show you. We've got that 118. Look here, guys. You can see I've got my grid line there. Support, 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 and then boom. We get this hourly candle. It's just a very bearish candle closing below, and that just led the way. So unless you were a breakout trader, really, you weren't going to get into this trade. If you always look for retests or pullbacks, then you know, you just didn't get in it. So if you did get that trade yesterday, you know, if you did see what was happening and you got in, then well done to you. So interesting to see what happens today. We could just be correcting this move, or we could actually be starting a new push to the upside, break through this trend line, and the inverse head and shoulder pattern play out. So be looking out for that. That's on my radar today. S&P, very, very bullish chart. I keep mentioning this. I'm just waiting for it to start to make another move to the upside. So little bounce there off the trend line. Now looking at the hourly, what I can see is I can see low, lower low, equal low just about. Maybe this is a higher low because it's very slightly higher than this, but certainly a higher low. Neckline, resistance, whatever you want to call it. This looks like it wants to push to the upside. It looks like it's going to go, but we have to wait and see. So are we going to see risk on in the markets today? Okay, are we going to see indices push to the upside? So looking at this, it's a lovely chart. I'm just waiting for it to go. Now, whether you trade price action, whether you trade with moving averages, you know, up to you. But I want to start seeing some nice impulsive moves to the upside, corrections, moves to the upside, higher highs, higher lows. Not quite seeing that at the moment, but definitely want to keep an eye on. Aussie Yen, if we see a risk on sentiment in the market, then we could see Aussie Yen push to the upside, because Aussie Yen is a kind of typical currency pair to trade. When it's risk on, you'd be typically looking for longs, risk off, typically looking for shorts, because the Australian dollar is a risk on currency and the Japanese yen is a safe haven currency. So they're kind of opposite of each other. So I mean, risk on, you'd expect to be buying Aussie and selling the Japanese yen, and that would mean buying Aussie yen, and the opposite for risk off. So we are, as you can see, H4, we are this moving to the downside. The sentiment is to the downside. So I'll be looking to see if that S&P breaks. We might see a risk on situation. We could see Aussie yen break to the upside, and that would also be a nice chart to trade. Still, you know, while we're underneath this trend line, we are bearish, but I want to see this break. I want to start seeing price start making high highs, higher lows, see these moving averages reverse like they have over here. It can be a beautiful market to trade when it goes. So, you know, even this downtrend here, as long as you've got a strategy, you could have traded this. Definitely could have traded this. So I will be open though. I will be open to the fact that this is in the downtrend at the moment. We could still see downside. So, but my preference is that this is going to break. We will see though. Couple of my other markets just wanted to make you aware of. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss is at a nice weekly resistance of resistance trend line, resistance of this triangular pattern. Also, it is, if I draw this in, you can just see it's just, if I go for this resistance here, it's just about broke it, and we're starting to see a little bit of selling come in. So are we going to see, because I like the idea of some USD weakness, are we going to see price break down on dollar Swiss again? So we've got resistance here, resistance here. So we could wait to see if we get some downside on this. So, you know, only you guys know what time frames you like to trade. Some of you might go really small time frames, 15-minute, 5-minute. You know, if you like the short on this, then you're going to be looking for that change of cycle nice and early. Otherwise, you know, if you're like the 1 hour like me, you're going to have longer to wait really for this to make a hourly impulse down, looking for a correction. But it's certainly one to look at. Let's just take those moving averages off for a second. Just want to have a little look at the chart. So yeah, there's a potential there. High, higher high, lower high. So keep your eyes on this. This along with euro dollar, you know, had a very impulsive move yesterday. USD had a big old push to the upside, but we can often see, you know, big pushes into levels and then reverse. So just bear that in mind. So we've got dollar Swiss at resistance. We've also got pound dollar at resistance. And remember, we had that bad or worse than expected pound news earlier this morning, which I mentioned at the top of the webinar. Let me just show you what I'm seeing on pound Swissy. 128, big number for this pair. It's a big resistance zone. We did break here, look, back in June 21, closed above, and then couldn't handle the pressure above 128, and we had this evening star pattern which led to this downside move. So are we going to see something very, very similar here? Are we going to see this 128 as a place where sellers come in? Well, initially, yes. Is that enough for me to sell? Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I want to see a bit more of an impulsive move to the downside. EMAs on the hourly are still nice and bullish, so I will wait a little longer and see if there is a setup for me according to my rules and my strategy. So keep an eye on S&P, keep an eye on Aussie Yen, those Swiss pairs. You know, we could see some Swiss strength in the market with, you know, dollar Swiss at resistance, pound Swiss at resistance. Have a look at the other Swiss pairs as well. And yeah, it's Friday, so have a great day. Have a great weekend, and I will speak to you in the next update. I'll catch you later. Bye.